This is Lori Barnes. I'm back with another video for you. The Aries new moon we have coming up in March. The new moon is coming up on Tuesday, March 21st. If you are on the West Coast in the USA, the time of the new moon is going to be at 10:23 in the morning, 10:23 a.m. And if you're on the East Coast, it's going to be at 1:23 p.m. in the afternoon. And if you're here in Rome, Italy, where I am, it will be at 6:23 p.m. Be sure to check your time because we are at the time of the year where some countries have daylight savings time, some countries don't, and not all places make the change at the same time. So the United States has already changed on March 12th, where in Italy, where I am, we're not changing until later in March on the 26th. We're also coming up to the time of the year where we have an equinox. We have the equinox twice a year, and depending on which hemisphere you're in, you're either going into spring or you're going into fall. So it's the time of the year when we have the same amount of light in the day and the same amount of night, same amount of dark in the evening and at night. It's about balance, right? Because the solstices are when we have the extremes. The equinoxes and the solstices work really nicely together when we look at a whole year. It helps us look at nature and how nature reflects back to us when we can go to extremes. So the equinoxes are when we have the equal light and dark, and then the solstices are when we have the extreme, longest days, shortest days, the most amount of light and the least amount of light, the most amount of dark and the least amount of dark. As we go into this equinox period, it's a time for you to reflect on balance in your life and looking at the different parts of your life. So you can have maybe good balance happening at work, and then at home, maybe there's not a lot of balance, that you find that you're more focused on taking care of the family, or you may find that you're more focused on taking care of yourself. Maybe you have a big project that you're working on and it's taking up a lot of your time. So everybody's situation is unique. And what I love about the equinoxes and solstices is that it reminds us to take a look at that and to notice when we start going out of balance. So the Aries new moon is the time of the year when we have the equinox. And if you're in the Northern Hemisphere, it's the kickoff of spring, or it's going into spring. The symbology of Aries works so nicely with the equinox because it's this new beginning. It's the beginning of the astrological year. Aries is the first sign of the zodiac. And so we celebrate Astrology Day in March. This is an exciting time to relook at your plans for the year and even kicking off some things. If you haven't gotten your year started, seems like we just had the new year yesterday, but no, it's already March. We're rolling through March. So if your 2023 has gotten off to a slower start, which is entirely possible considering that when we started the new year, we had the Mars retrograde, we had a Mercury retrograde, and that just looked a bit slower for some of us, or many of us. Then we finally got out of the retrogrades, and in February we were kind of speeding ahead because no planets were retrograde, and also in March no planets are retrograde. So this is a really fast moving month, and it's the second month without retrograde. So this is really a month where we find ourselves moving ahead, moving along. And then we come to this Aries new moon, and it's a time of new beginnings. All new moons are about new beginnings. An Aries new moon, which we have once a year, is about the beginning of the zodiac and the beginning of the astrological year. So there's like a double new beginning built into the Aries new moon. There are some other things happening at the time of the new moon that reinforce that message of new beginnings. We have Pluto moving into Aquarius on the 23rd, so shortly after the new moon. And then Mars is going to move into Cancer on the 25th. That's another new beginning. And if you remember, Mars has been retrograde in Gemini going back to, I want to say August of 2022 is when Mars first went into Gemini. And because of the retrograde, it has remained in that sign for an unusually long amount of time. And Mars only goes retrograde every 2 years. So that was definitely something that we don't experience all that often. So we have Mars moving into a new sign, Pluto moving into a new sign, Sun moves into a new sign every month. This month it happens to be Aries, the beginning of the zodiac. It happens at the equinox, kicking off the astrological new year. So it's really exciting. It's full of energy. Aries is a very dynamic sign. It's a very physical sign, likes to do things and get that energy out. It's a fire sign. So it's excited to engage and do things and loves a challenge and wants to kind of like lead. Aries are known to be leaders. They may jump in quickly without thinking first, but very much, gung-ho, let's go. So that's the kind of energy that's happening at this new moon. And I always like to think about the opposite sign of the new moon. And we always see that in a full moon, because the full moon is always the two signs opposite each other. When we look at a new moon, it's both the sun and the moon in the same sign, Aries in this case. And sometimes it's helpful to understand a sign by looking at the opposite sign. So we have Libra and Aries this month. Aries is about the self. It's the first sign of the zodiac. It's about youth and youth-like. It's impulsivity. It's loves a challenge. It's very gung-ho. Is very spirited and dynamic and loves to get things started. Doesn't necessarily want to stick around and do all that detail work. That's for our Virgo friends. We always want a Virgo on our team when we're Aries, because they help us not skip steps, right? I'm an Aries moon, so I really understand the whole Aries, jump in and impulsivity and wanting to just like go all in. But Aries is the kind of energy that if you get bored, it's just like, done with that, what's next? So looking at the opposite sign, Libra, it helps us better understand Aries. Libra is about others. It's about relationship. It's about engaging with others and learning from others, and how others reflect back to us ourselves, how we can learn about ourselves through others. And this new moon is a time to really think about, how well am I taking care of myself and my needs? Am I focusing enough on myself? And how well or how much do I focus on others? And am I too far in the extreme of taking care of others and I'm neglecting myself? Aries is about the self. So this is the time of the year to be more self-focused, to be more self-centered. However, if you are someone who tends to be overly self-focused and overly self-centered, this could be a time where you find that people around you are letting you know that. And if you're getting those messages, or you're starting to kind of like feel like you may be too focused on yourself, and to the extent that you aren't taking care of important things as it relates to others, it can be kind of a wake-up call for you to make some adjustments, a time to bring things into balance. This is the equinox, where we're balancing light and dark, the day and the night. So use this time to do a nice evaluation of yourself, nice, gentle, because it's not about beating yourself up or pointing out, where you're not doing something well, and definitely not saying, oh, I'm a bad person because I'm too self-centered. That's not it at all. It's about taking a little time to really reflect on how well you are taking care of your own needs, and how well balanced you are in taking care of your needs as it relates to other people that are in your life, in your environment, at home with your family, at work with your colleagues. Are you seeing your friends? Have you been blowing them off and not seeing your friends because you're very self-absorbed into something? Or are you spending so much time with your friends that you're not taking care of a project that's really important to you? Balance is key. And balance is a moving thing. It's a fluid thing. It's not a rigid place that you get and you stay there and hold on tight. That's not going to work. Balance is about the ebb and flow of maintaining general balance. Because it's Aries, and because we have so many new beginnings, it is really a great time to kick something off, to get something started, and especially some projects that have been close to your heart that you really want to get moving on. And during those times, you may have to be more self-focused. You may have to be more self-centered. when you're evaluating kind of like, how am I engaging in my environment, that you are comparing yourself to yourself, not to others, and that you are allowing yourself permission to go ahead and take more time and more focus on yourself if that's what you need to do right now. The caution is to not get into a position where you say, oh, I'm launching this project and I need to spend more time on that project. And you let the people in your life know, your partner, your friends, your family, maybe even work, that, hey, I'm going to be less available than usual because I need to do this thing. And you're going to go out of balance. You're going to go to that, maybe an extreme side of being more self-focused. And the caution is not to stay there for an indefinite period of time. At some point, you're going to want to come back in and bring things back into balance. So you have to be able to evaluate your situation and say, am I balanced or am I imbalanced? And if I'm imbalanced, is this because I'm purposely imbalanced and I know that I'm taking this extra time to focus on myself to get my project done? And then when that is released and out in the world, I'm going to bring myself back to balance. I'm not going to go for months on months or years on years of not seeing my friends, or taking a little time away from what I would normally be spending a lot of time with my partner, and my partner's being really understanding and giving me this extra time, but at some point there's this expectation that I'm returning back into the partnership. So that's kind of how you want to think of it, that because the equinox, I'm saying, look at how well you're balanced, and it's a good time to bring yourself into balance. But I don't want to make that like 100%, for everyone, because it really depends on your situation. And because we have all these new beginnings and all these planetary shifts, and it can be really a dynamic of fantastic time to go off and really like go deep into something, your passion, your project, and get it out there. And that might actually take you into a more self-focused period of time. And I'm saying, absolutely do that. It is okay. You go do that. Yay, good for you if you have something like that. Just be sure that you don't go too far to the extreme for an indefinite period of time, where you at some point you may not be able to get your relationships back to where you want them to be. If you ignore a relationship for too long, then things are going to shift and change, and not be able to return back to where you want them to be. So you want to be really honest and thorough, and really think things through, and then make the decisions as to what is best for you in your life. And then the other side is that if you're overly focused on others, and you're so caught up in other people's business and what's going on with them, maybe you find that during this time period, if you get a reminder like, hey, what about your project over here? What about your online business that you were going to launch? Or what about your YouTube channel that you were going to work on? If you're spending so much time on other people's things, whatever they may be, maybe being there for a friend who's going through a hard time, which is a wonderful thing to do, as long as it doesn't cause you to lose the momentum of something that's important to you. It's finding balance. Like, how can I be there and support my friend and still work on my project? And what do I need to shift in my life to make that work for me? This is a great month to make those shifts. The planets are shifting, not the fast moving planets. I mean, yes, they are shifting, but they shift every month is what I mean. Mercury changes signs regularly. Venus changes signs regularly. The moon changes signs every 2.5 days. The sun changes signs every month. So we're kind of used to that. We get into that groove. When we get to planets like Saturn and Pluto, they do not change signs so often. Saturn only changes signs every 2.5 years, and Pluto has a fairly irregular orbit, but it stays in a sign for a really long time. And just to look back to the last time it made a change was in 2008 when it moved into Capricorn. Now Pluto is moving into Aquarius, and that's going to happen on the 23rd, just a couple of days after this new moon. So we really have some incredible shifts happening at the new moon. Of course, we have a new moon every month. It just so happens that these shifts by Pluto and Saturn are happening in the month where it's the Aries new moon, the beginning of the astrological cycle, and the equinox. So I just love how they're all coming together this year. There's a huge amount of energy for us to tap into. And I hope that you all take some time to really tap into that energy. Aries is about our creativity. It's about, what do we have passion for? Where do we lose track of time, where we're so in the flow of what we love that we don't even notice that the hours have passed by? And how can we take that passion and do something with it? Be creative with it, or, express yourself through these things that you love. These are good things to think about under the Aries new moon. This is the beginning of the cycle, right? So the new moon, it always represents the beginning of a lunar cycle, which lasts for around a month. So we will be back for the half cycle, the full moon, which will be in Libra on April 5th or 6th, depending on where you live. So in the middle of the cycle, we're really going to be wanting to look back and see what went down in your life at this new moon, where there's just so much excitement and change, a lot of 0 degrees energy. So anytime a planet changes signs, it goes into the 0 degrees, and then it goes, through the degrees up until 29, and then it goes to the next sign. And so we will look back on this cycle when we get to the full moon. There's other things going on at the new moon that I wanted to mention, and I do tend to write more about these in my blog. And if you'd like to get that, just subscribe to my email, which I will include a link below this video. The first thing that I wanted to mention was the moon and the sun, which are both going to be 0 degrees Aries for the new moon, are going to be within a few degrees of Mercury. So that adds more fire to the new moon. It adds an element of like dynamic thinking, like quick thinking, like kind of imagine like a rush of words coming out of people's mouths, or speaking before thinking, like rash speaking after rash thinking, and impulsive conversation and impulsivity in conversation, where the words just come out. If you get annoyed with somebody, where you might usually kind of keep your mouth shut, or, kind of just shrug it off, something might just sneak out of your mouth, that kind of thing. So do watch your words under the Aries new moon, because there may be less ability to manage what you say with Mercury being there. And Jupiter is also traveling through Aries. So Jupiter's a little bit further on. It's going to be at 16 degrees Aries at the time of the new moon. And of course, the sun and the moon are going to be at 0 degrees Aries, and Mercury is going to be at 5 degrees. So we do have a stack up of energy in this sign of Aries. So that just means that you may have more energy in your body. You may have more energy in the way that you think and communicate, because Mercury's there. You may talk more, you may talk faster. And with Jupiter there, Jupiter just tends to make things bigger, blows things up, and has, Jupiter's an optimistic type of planet. And the way that it expresses that is through the sign. So here's Jupiter kind of like in Aries, like going whoosh, it's really fast. So it's not necessarily good or bad, it's just maybe bigger. If you find that your words are kind of like coming out without thinking, then they may come out louder, or more expressive than you expected. Like, you could even surprise yourself that all this kind of like energy is coming out of you. So the best way to use it is to direct it somewhere. Hopefully we all get that boost. Those of us who have a lot of fire and air in our charts are especially going to feel this. You're going to just feel really energized, like maybe even so much energy you don't even know what to do at all. Like, you could have just nervous body energy and just like, I got to move, I got to do something, I'm going crazy. So try to fit some exercise in your schedule if you can, or just get up and move your body. You're probably going to want to move your body. I have the colors here. It's like, this is red, this is Aries, this is like go, energy, passion, and you want to like let it out. So definitely let it out. There's not really any harsh aspects coming to the sun and the moon. There are a couple of other relationships that are happening in the sky at the time of the new moon, like Venus and Saturn are in a sextile relationship. So that's pretty smooth and flowing. And they are possibly the two planets that can help ground us a little more with all this dynamic energy. And then I mentioned this in the last video, but I think it's important to mention it again. And that is the Aquarius part of your chart. So Saturn was in Aquarius for 2.5 years, and on March 7th moved into Pisces, leaving the Aquarius part of your chart. For a 2-week period of time, Saturn was out, but now Pluto is coming in. So I hope that you have your chart and you can look at it and find where is Aquarius, what house is Aquarius occupying, and just notice as Pluto moves into Aquarius, does something shift for you? Do you feel like a little tingle of change? And whatever house Aquarius occupies in your chart is going to give you more information as to what part of life, what topics of life or people, because houses can represent different people in your life. It's going to let you know where you're most likely to see that energy show up. So I definitely take a look. And if you don't have your chart, find one of those free online chart generators and get your chart, because that's going to help a lot to understand the significant changes happening in March. All right, I always like to give you some ideas for essential oils. And this month I have quite a few because we have so much energy happening. There's different things that can be going on and different reasons why you may want to use the essential oils for self-empowerment and to help overcome fear and spark your creative fire, which I really think is like the theme of this new moon. I'm calling it igniting new cycles, plural, because there are a few cycles beginning. We have the Saturn cycle in Pisces just started. Pluto is moving into Aquarius, the new moon cycle, the equinox, and Mars changing signs. So there's just like a lot of shifts in the planetary cycles happening. So to help with that process of any kind of like fear of the unknown, fear of change, because that often is what happens, is like change can be exciting, but it's also you don't know what's going to happen. And so a lot of times people experience this fear of the unknown. And then there's many people who don't want change, and change is thrust upon you. And that can be what happens with this kind of month, with these significant shifts. There can be kind of like a foretelling of change to come, because change doesn't always happen immediately. It doesn't like just all of a sudden everything just shifts so significantly that it looks like, way different. But it does indicate that this is the beginning of a time of change. And so you might get some ideas of, oh, things are definitely shifting, and I can see that they're going to shift, and I cannot stop this shift. I can't change it, but what I can do is manage my behavior, as in the way I respond to it. That's really what's important, is how are you going to respond to any changes that come towards you that are reflected and activated by these planetary changes. Can also come within you. You can feel like internally that you just cannot continue on in a particular way any longer, and that you are ready to make a shift. It's time to make a shift. This can be coming from the inside. However it comes your way, you want to be ready for the change. So I'd like to have essential oil. I mean, every day I put them on, because I'm like, what's my mood today? What do I want to get done today? What is going on in the sky? How can I best help support myself as I continue through my daily routines? So I have ginger for self-empowerment, to help you overcome fear and to spark your creative fire. I would get some of that. And if you don't have the essential oil of ginger, you can work it into your food. It's spicy, right? It's kind of got that Mars, Aries vibe to it. Citrus essential oils are stimulating, they're energizing, and they're refreshing. So whatever you have on hand, like lime, lemon, grapefruit, orange, like these are all really good oils for just kind of getting energized and motivated, especially if you're doing any kind of spring cleaning or fall cleaning. get those citrus oils going. A lot of people use lemon in their cleaning supplies because it has this wonderful aroma and it cleans really well. So, maybe you put some lemon essential oil in your cleaning. Well, I mean, it depends on what you're using, but if you're using like soap and water, put some lemon drops in there because that will help make it smell really good and it helps to clean. Other energizing, stimulating essential oils are bergamot and rosemary, and also thyme or thyme. And so if you have any of those on hand, you can blend all those together. They all smell really good together. That's what I have going right now in mine. I have lime, orange, lemon, and bergamot. It smells really good. Okay, if you're looking to energize and focus, you can use peppermint for that. If you want to soothe yourself. So here's the other thing with all of this energy, Aries is just full of energy. You may feel like you just want to soothe and kind of like calm. And for that, I recommend frankincense, geranium, and lavender. And then if it's just too much energy and you want some grounding, this could be helpful for those of you who have a lot of water and earth in your chart, and you just feel like this is like way too much fire Aries energy for me, and I just want to kind of like ground myself, then patchouli or vetiver are both really good for that. So those are my recommendations for essential oils for the Aries new moon. And then some intention setting for this new moon. I know many of you set new moon intentions every month, which is a fabulous routine to be in. Then I would definitely set some intentions around finding or evaluating where you are in terms of how well you're focusing on yourself, how well you are taking care of what's most important to you in life. And if you're not getting to things that are most important to you, this is a time to make a shift, make a change. Spend some time focusing on yourself. Give yourself permission to take care of you. If you're not taking care of you, you're not going to be able to take care of anyone else as well as you may want to. So if you find that you're more focused on others and you haven't been taking care of things important to you, make a change at the Aries new moon and set intentions around that. You can do an exercise or a ritual where you write down the things that seem to be getting in the way of you making progress on what's important to you, whether it's a project, whether it's a relationship, whatever it is, write those things down and then burn them and let it be a metaphor for you burning away obstacles in your life and clearing the space so you can charge forward. That is Aries energy. Charge forward. Go in like a warrior. Aries is the warrior. Aries is the pioneer. Aries is the martial artist. It's pure dynamic energy. And of course, we all have Aries somewhere in our chart, and some of us have planets occupying the sign of Aries. And where Aries is in your chart, and especially if you have planets there, that part of your chart is going to be really activated at this new moon. Pay attention to what comes up for you, because it should give you information about how well you're taking care of yourself and maybe how much you might be giving away to others. And do keep in mind that you can be on the other side where, on either extreme side, or you can be in the middle. Some of you may be balancing very well, and you may, when you do your evaluation, be like, I'm doing pretty good. Like I do focus on myself. I get my stuff done. I have my self-care routine. I'm making sure that I'm getting exercise in and I have time to work on my projects, but I also make sure that I spend the time with my partner. I see my friends. Things are going well at work. It's okay to be balanced and in the middle. Absolutely okay. And it's okay to be at extreme ends because it happens. What's important is that you recognize when you've gone too far. That's what it's all about. It's not about saying that you can't be there, because we all end up on these extremes at some time in our life or another. And sometimes we want to be there. So as you're doing this analysis, maybe you have a sick parent, maybe you have a sick kid, maybe there's something that's really important for your partner to do, and your partner needs you to step up for a period of time to help them, and you've decided to do that. All of those things are okay. If it becomes indefinite, or if you're losing too much of yourself, that's when you need to maybe bring in some balance and make some shifts. So the new moon intentions, this Aries new moon, is really about you figuring out where you fit into that line, that continuum. And then it's about taking action. It's about getting something going. I mean, we have this amazing time, and it's really, I think, one of the only times this year where it's like there's no planets retrograde. So it's like the time is forward. It's forward moving. It's fast moving. It's not about, reflecting and realigning like what we talk about in retrogrades. It's like everything is moving forward. And the planets have shifted gears. The Saturn, not all of them, but Saturn has shifted gears. Pluto is shifting gears. Mars is shifting gears. Mercury changed signs this month. Venus changed signs this month. The sun, of course, changed signs this month. Now, like I said before, some of that happens every month, so it's not necessarily new. But Mars changing signs this month is important. Saturn changing signs this month is important, and so is Pluto. And just keep in mind that all of these things are shifting. And here we are in Aries, which is like, yes, I want to go. I can adapt. Like, give me a challenge. I love challenges. So you're going to give me 10 changes that I'm not ready for or used to or not expecting. That's okay. I got this. That's Aries. And people who have a lot of fire and air in their chart are probably like, yeah, okay, that's cool. I get that. And I'm excited about that. But then people who have a lot of earth and water may be more like, no, I don't want that much change, or that's really overwhelming to me. And this does not sound exciting to me. And so at the new moon, it's like setting intentions for being adaptable, stepping up to a challenge, and accepting a challenge, and being really gung-ho about conquering it. Aries is let's conquer this. Some other things that you can do are spring cleaning or fall cleaning. I think I already mentioned that. Get rid of clutter, make room for the new. So if you have a bunch of stuff that's kind of gotten piled up in the corner of your house or in a room, sometimes things just take over a room. Start getting rid of that stuff. Make space for something new. The times right now are saying it's a time of new beginnings, and there's that message is coming at us in many different ways. As above, so below. The planets are saying to us, we are showing you, we are reflecting to you a lot of changes and shifts. And so in our lives, we can look around and kind of expect that there's going to be changes and shifts. Even if it's not happening to us, it's going to be happening to someone someone around you is probably going to be experiencing some of this. And so the metaphor is clearing out old stuff and making space for the new. And ways that you can do that is in your own home. Go through stuff that you haven't looked at for a long time, or stuff that's taking up space, and get rid of it. And then that opens up the space so something new can come in. I mean, maybe there's something that that you want to kick off, and the only way you can do that is by making physical space for it. And then you can also, inside of you, like maybe you got to get rid of some mental clutter. Maybe you've got to get rid of some old ways of thinking. Maybe it's time to start reframing things and start kind of cutting out the stuff that's not working, that's not supportive. Get rid of that so you can open space inside of you to accept any of these new ideas, these new inspirations, anything that's going to ignite you. That's another good keyword for Mars and Aries. And the reason why I'm referring to Mars is because the sign of Aries is one of Mars signs. So please try to figure out, what you can kind of like, where's the clutter, and get rid of it. And, is it internal? Is it external? Is it both? Where is the clutter? Get it out. Let's see. And then, some fun things you can do is make a fire pit. Aries is a fire sign. So bring fire into your new moon ritual, whether it's a fireplace, a bonfire, a barbecue, invite people over, have a barbecue, light some candles, immerse yourself in the fire element, safely, of course. And some inspirational quotes to help you along during this new moon. First is from Sarah Von Brethnock. I hope I'm saying that right. And she says, a fresh start, a new chapter in life waiting to be written, new questions to be asked, embraced, and loved, answers to be discovered and then lived in this transformative year of delight and self-discovery. It's a long one, but it's like, gosh, that's exactly what we've been talking about. The next one is from Nito Cubein, Qubein. And they say, your present circumstances don't determine where you can go. They merely determine where you start. And we are definitely at a starting point in this year. The next one is from Steve Jobs. He says, have the courage to follow your heart and intuition. They somehow know what you truly want to become. And the last one is from William Shakespeare. And he says, April hath put a spirit of youth in everything. Now, I know if you're in the Southern Hemisphere, you're not necessarily going into spring, but I feel like, when we have these season changes, it's like, we kind of feel it. We're like on the verge of something new. And I love that quote. Okay, well, that's all I have for you today. I hope that this Aries new moon ignites a new cycle for you, ignites passion in your heart, ignites your fire, whatever it is that you find creative, dynamic, inspiring, that you take action and get excited about it and go out there and do something and take some time for yourself. All right, happy new moon. I will see you next time for the Libra full moon. Bye.